What's up, everybody, and welcome to a Wednesday edition of the YSN Power Hour. DJ Yokley on this side of the box, and on the other side, well, it's the one, the only Mr. Scotty Mincher, who joins us back in his normal time slot of Wednesdays. Excuse me, right here on YSN. Scooter, what is going on, buddy? It's been a minute.
Oh yeah, it's definitely been a minute, a hot minute. I'm super stoked to be here, and it's perfect timing because not to take anything away from the other sports, but we know how football crazed people are
Oh,
here, and
baby.
the timing couldn't be any better for a return.
So I've been running the gauntlet. I mean, I was on FMJ last night for the football roundtable, which was awesome. Great experience there. Champ Summers, Greg McAfee, and Dana Ballish, of course, and myself talked football for an hour on WBCB, our proud partners. And then yours truly had to turn it around, right? So I was there till about 8:15 ish. Then I had to go from Youngstown, FMJ Studios, to Giangelo's, which we were filming the South Range show, pick up the equipment, got a bite to eat, which was unbelievable. Chicken parm sandwich, Scotty. When you go there, get it. Get it. And the onion rings, off the charts. Like, I'm an onion rings guy, right? That is my thing, off the charts. But I will tell you, straight up, I'm going to try the pizza next time because I heard nothing but great things about the pizza. So I'm excited about that. So I'm at Giangelo's. Now I got to get home, right? So I get home about 9:30-ish, right? And then I know full well that I've got work to do. I've got to publish some of these stories, have some technical difficulties with, of course, with the Dave Rock interview with Chris Sigler, that they did a great job. Fix that. Then it was turning over into WFMJ today. So I've got to be there at 6:20, 6:30 in the morning, which, if you know me, that's not my time of the day. Like, I'll get there, but I'm not bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at any time. So I took a picture after I woke up 5 o'clock, got ready 5:37, and I'm like, I got to take a picture of this because this will never happen again, probably. But had a great time on their show, and then tonight I'm on the 6 o'clock. So I feel like, you know how when movie stars have a movie coming out and they do like the tour around like New York and Los Angeles, and they do all the shows, the morning shows and stuff like that. That's kind of how it felt. Like, except I'm not important. One of those things. I'm just talking about football, which supposedly I know a thing or two about. So it was really cool. Next time I'm sending you. You're going on the tour.
All right, that sounds like I mean, you could say you're not important, but just to be able to have that and do that and talk sports, I mean, why else are we here, man? That's why we're here.
And you, my friend, first time in athletics. What do you think?
First time. I gotta say, this place is off the charts, man. Absolutely beautiful.
A little bit different than back in the old stomping grounds of East Palestine, Ohio, and YSN Uno. This is the dose.
Yeah, it's a real marvel.
I love it, dude.
It's man, I'm gonna this place is laid out, man. I tried to picture it in my head, like on the way here, what it was gonna be like today coming in here, and it definitely exceeded my expectations.
It's one of those places it just keeps going. You know, you haven't even been back in the field house yet, have you?
I have not.
We'll have to go in the field house after the show's over. I'll show you around. You got turf on one side, on the far side. You've got basketball courts, volleyball courts on the near side. It's to behold. It is unbelievable. So we got through all that, the welcome backs, the fluffy stuff. Scotty, what are we talking about today?
Well, I remember it's been a while since we've been on together. We were doing it from my home for a while
Hmm.
in Struthers, but we had a bit of a hiatus. You've had so much going on
A little bit.
lately. Yeah, but I remember from one of our last shows, you brought up a topic that we could use on a previous show, and I couldn't get it off my mind because I thought it was very intriguing. Really got my wheels spinning. So I wanted to talk about, because I know you're gonna have a take on this, a good take, because you always do, because you were a salesman, and
Oh, there it is.
they have the great takes. But the difference between a star and a superstar,
Oh.
I really wanted to get into the meat of that.
All right.
uh
So let's preface this and ask the question before that is it this like MVP? Like because that's what I think of when I think superstar. Like people that are potential MVPs of leagues and conferences and things like that. That to me, that's superstar esque. And we'll dive into that a little bit more. But like let's set some parameters here. Superstar. Are we talking like money? Are we talking finances? Are we talking superstar in the game? They advance the game. Are we talking leadership? What are the parameters here?
I think for me, I was thinking as far as in the game, as well as are you a good leader too? Because
Leader
uh,
of like a league or a conference or your team?
of the team, I
Okay.
was
Okay.
thinking, um, and to me, like, money's not as it's not as important for like this conversation to me, because I feel like there's a lot of guys that make a lot of money that
Hmm.
maybe they're not quite worth their contract.
Hmm.
So that wasn't as important to me. I don't know about you when it comes to star and superstar, but I I do, like, my opinion. You mentioned guys that in the MVP conversation, like top level guys that could win the most valuable player award. But I kind of also think if you're like, take a certain position, for example, any sport, like baseball could be a starting pitcher, football, a wide receiver, running back, whatever you want to throw out there. To me, if people consider you in the top five in your position group, to me that qualifies as a superstar.
Okay.
If
So let's take that. Let's stop right there. Keep your train on the tracks, but let's think about that. So top five. So in football, there's 22 potential spots, right? Without kickers and punters. All right. So you're saying that potentially, what would that be? Times five, what 110 superstars in the NFL.
I
Uh oh, you didn't think about that one, did you?
I did not. This is why you were the salesman. You're better at thinking. You're better in math too than
No,
me.
don't no. My wife is laughing her face off right now. Math, math, and I don't get along, and Coach Yeagley, I'm sure, is out there somewhere. And he's probably laughing as well as the former math teacher. But yeah, 110 superstars. So what does that mean?
um, I don't. But how many how many players total would you just
All right,
like
so
a
this
guesstimate?
is where I got to get out the
How many
calculator.
how many players total you
Okay, so
think
what?
are
There's
in the?
50. Is there still 53 players on the roster? Or is it like 54, 55,
I thought it was more around
57?
50. 55.
All right, let's say it's 55 because we don't, just for number's sake.
Yeah.
Multiply that times 32, you got 1,760.
Yeah, when you put it that way, to me, like, what was the under number?
122
100, and to me, it's
or 110. I'm sorry, I don't know why I said 122.
to me that's like doesn't sound that sounds pretty accurate.
A little less than 10%.
Yeah, so when you put it that way, when you add all the players on a roster and all the different teams, I think it is pretty accurate. So.
And you think about it, that kind of goes with, the top 100 players, right? They do, the NFL makes a big deal out of that. The number 10, they do top 10 in on ESPN, so it kind of flows. So the top 5 in your position class. Now, if you get crazy, like to be a superstar in high school is a little bit different to be a superstar in the pros, correct?
Yeah, for sure.
Because so if you're looking at, there's 818 high schools under the OHSAA banner. Okay, so you've got 818. This would be interesting to me. So 818 times 5 is 4,090. Okay,
Yeah.
so if you do that, you're saying there's 4,090 superstars in the state of Ohio, right? Did I do the math right? I think.
I think that's right.
That's why.
Again,
See, that's why you don't say I'm good at math, because now I just butchered it, and any credibility you just gave me is gone.
I didn't. To be fair, I didn't say you were good at math. I said you were better than me because I'm about the worst there is. So
Sam says, with professional sports, to me, a star is great at their position. A superstar can make a difference on whether or not they change the team's ability to win a championship. I think that's pretty spot on. That's kind of that's my way of thinking as well. And then Sam and I don't think a lot of the same many of the time. So much of the time. So that's nice job, Sam. I'll give you all the credit in the world for that one.
yeah, I think to me, like,
So give me a superstar. Give me 5 superstars in football.
In football, okay, that's easy.
Yep.
Nick Chubb.
Okay. Of course, we're gonna start with the Browns.
Yeah, we gotta get
not even the best running
Brown
back in football. We're starting there.
You don't think he's the best in football?
He wasn't last year.
Who was?
The dude for the Raiders. He's not there.
Josh
Jacobs.
No way.
Did he not have number 1 stats?
He did, but stats can be deceiving.
Oh,
yeah.
Can they?
Yeah, they can.
Like whenever your running back's the best in the game and doesn't have the best stats in the game, that's deceiving.
I mean,
I like Nick Chubb. I hate making this argument because I like the guy. I wish he was a Steeler.
But let me say this. As mediocre as the Browns were last year, and they've been mediocre the last couple years.
Here it comes.
The Raiders had an even worse.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they did.
So,
and I think they're going to get worse and worse, to be quite honest with you. Not that we're going to get into I think is that next week that we get into our who's going to win NFL picks and stuff? That should be next week. It's about that time of year.
Yeah, if it's not next week, it's the week after. So
yeah, because there's 18 days or something. I forget what it is. It's coming up.
Yeah, it's
September 11th is that Thursday is the kickoff.
But so do you want me to stay? Because I said Nick Chubb.
Okay, sorry.
Do you want me to stay at one position?
Yeah,
or can I go multiple?
Go multiple positions. That's fine.
Okay, so Nick Chubb. Obviously, I gotta get my other bro crush in there, Pat Mahomes.
Okay.
So that's
fair. He's a superstar.
Number 2. Number 3 to me, I would put Derrick Henry in there. Not number 4, I would put Tyreek Hill as a superstar.
Interesting.
And number 5, I know he's only played a couple years, but you think about it, first full year as a starter, Super Bowl, and then
I knew it was
another
coming. I knew it was
conference
coming.
title game. You got to put Joe Burrow there.
I don't disagree with any. The only one fringing for me in the top 5, and I don't know if that's how you kind of labeled it, but it was Derrick Henry. I don't know that he's a top 5 superstar in the league from that standpoint. Aaron Rodgers, I think, is. As
But
crazy as it sounds.
you think he's still in the top 5
I
in the
think he's a
entire
superstar.
league?
Well, I mean, anytime you can bring a guy in, and I think that's kind of what Sam's talking about here, right? So you look at this, a guy that can change the team's ability to win a championship. When's the last time you talked about the Jets and even the playoffs? Not the Super Bowl, the playoffs. Playoffs. But it's the truth. You bring in Aaron Rodgers.
Mark Sanchez, and everybody knew that team because Sanchez.
But that was more
wasn't
for their
good enough.
defense, was it not?
Yeah,
They had Bart
and
Scott.
the running game.
Yeah.
They had a really good running game.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
You know, but that's what I'm trying to get at. So we're talking stars versus superstars here on the YSN Power Hour, brought to you by Toyota of Warren. Thanks, Tino and his crew. A star, and this is at any level, a star is someone who can help that side, right? So you can help your team maybe get in position to win, but a superstar to me is the guy that wins it. A superstar to me is the guy that changes the culture and gets you relevant quick. So when I talk about Aaron Rodgers, and I don't have a crush on Aaron Rodgers. I used to. Self-admittedly, I used to have a crush on Rodgers like you do on Patty Mahomes. But I'll tell you this. I think Rodgers is a guy that changes, I talk about this a lot, changes the culture from a leadership standpoint. He can also throw some dimes, right? His quarterback ability is really, really good. And he makes you relevant very quickly, even if they haven't even played a game yet, Scotty.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people are picking them. They're like a lot for several people, like a dark horse. Super Bowl, not
They
just in
are.
that division, but
And
Super Bowl
that's a
contender.
division, Scotty. That's a division with the Bills and the Dolphins.
Yeah, it's not a weak division. I mean, everybody talks about the AFC North, and I do like. I know every year I'm high on the Browns, and you think, I drink too much of the Kool-Aid, but I really
Drinking
do.
something.
I really do think in the North, like it wouldn't totally shock me if every team in the division was in the postseason.
Stop it.
Like I wouldn't be shocked. But the AFC East, not for they might be just as good as the North.
The East is where it's going to be. I really think so. Because tell me, out of those 3 teams, who's not going to make the playoffs?
Out of the Dolphins, Bills, and Jets, I
think the Dolphins are probably the closest. But if Tua lights up the world,
that's the only thing, though. The only reason I would say the Dolphins is because it's not even because he's been hurt. It's because he might be one concussion away from never playing again.
Yeah.
And when he was on the field, I'm not saying Tua's a superstar, but when he's been healthy, he's been very good. Like
he's gotten better. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say very good. Very good is someone I talk about, Patrick Mahomes. Like he is very good.
See,
very good.
That's where I disagree with you, though. Like I think there's a difference between you say Pat Mahomes is very good. I say Pat Mahomes is great. To me, there's a difference.
Yeah, I guess it's who. Yeah, I get that. I respect that. I think Pat Mahomes is great too, for what it's worth. I just think Patrick Mahomes has a lot around him as well.
He does, but Doesn't every really good quarterback
Do we want to
usually
go
have
down
a
this
lot
road?
around them?
Do we want to go down this road of guys that surround themselves with greatness, and are they really great? Because you know
You,
where this usually leads, right?
you going the Baker here? Aboard the
This
aboard the
usually goes one of
Baker
two
train.
ways. We
He
go Baker
did
Mayfield or we go LeBron James. Which way
he
you want to go?
he did uh I mean, but the thing about LeBron, if
Oh,
if
there it is.
if you wanna take it that route, like I'm done arguing. I'm not gonna argue like the people that saying I know you're in the corner. Like I'm no longer gonna argue Jordan's the GOAT. Like that I'm not gonna dispute.
Slam dunk.
But the thing that's different between a guy like LeBron and a guy like Baker Mayfield when you talk about very good is LeBron's still won. He's won 4 NBA championships.
Great.
Baker Mayfield has 1 playoff win. So
And we're still talking about that playoff win. Let's make sure we talk about
well,
we
yeah,
talk about play. Listen, and not to get into the weeds here, we still talk about that playoff win like it was the 2016 NBA Finals victory against Golden State. Can we just be honest?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, all right.
I hate to say it, but it's like I'll give you
You would
to
burn a building to the ground if the Browns won a Super Bowl.
oh my god, you would have to you better start calling all the security if they win that. What is it? This is year 3. We're going into year 3 of my 5-year window
Yep.
here. I said the Browns will win one in the next 5 years. So including this year, got 3 years left
Yeah.
to get the job done.
I think that this year you feel good. Next year you're starting to get a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Especially if the Browns don't at the very least if they don't make the playoffs this year, it's gonna get real uncomfortable because they put so much money into this roster to win now, and if they flop, it is it is it is worse than flopping with Baker because at least with Baker, you didn't have a $230 million contract you were paying him.
And I know we're way off the topic here, but can I make a prediction?
Yes.
I feel like, and you know I like Baker Mayfield. You know I like the moxie that guy brings to the table, right? I feel like if / when the Browns have a so-so mediocre season this year, and Baker has a big time season in Tampa Bay, which I think is absolutely feasible given a lot of moving parts down in that NFC or NFC South rather. Browns fans are going to be calling absolute BS on every single trade that has been made. You're going to see, I mean, there might be a riot on our hands. If Baker Mayfield turns into an MVP candidate, which I'm not saying he will, but if he turns into the star / potential superstar that Cleveland thought he was, that you, my friend, thought he was, you sat on that very same microphone and told me Baker Mayfield is going to be a superstar. We were talking about how many championship rings he was going to win. Was he going to compete with Tom Brady? Was he all of this stuff? We're talking about this guy that you kicked out of your locker room. And it turns out there was a lot of falsities that happened, right? And now you got a guy for what was it, $230, $240 million.
Yep.
And the expectation is not just tread water. It's we want a championship. If you win one championship, I think everybody's happy with that trade. If you win no
Yeah.
championships, are you happy with that trade, or do you miss Baker? I think you miss Baker deep down.
It's if we win no titles with this roster and get making that gamble, um, I hate to say it, but I'll be missing some Baker. I know, only one team could win it at the end of the day. So, even though every year I think the Browns are gonna win it, at least every year I've known you, I thought that. I know it's pretty unrealistic that to expect more than one. Um, by the way, if Deshaun Watson did win like two, um, even with all that's gone on with him off the field, he would be a legend in Cleveland. And
If he wins one, he's a legend in Cleveland. Let's be honest. He would have done something that nobody's ever done before. The Bernie Kosars, the Tim Couches, the Baker Mayfields, all those quarterbacks, that jersey, right? That you see always of all the quarterbacks, you'd never see that again.
you would. That's a good point, but don't you like for whatever reason? Maybe it's the number. I don't know. It it's that's what I got gotta think when I'm thinking about this. Because you know Deshaun Watson was accused of
Yeah, we got that.
yeah, and but Roethlisberger,
Oh, we got that. Yeah,
it was
yeah. Old
yeah,
news.
yeah, old news. But my point is where I'm getting at is he still seemed to me he's not just a legend in Pittsburgh, but he's a legend around the entire NFL
I disagree.
in the media.
I
And
disagree.
I don't you disagree with that?
I do. I think Ben Roethlisberger still has a giant black mark on his name. I really do.
Really?
I do. And not in Pittsburgh per se, but I think there's. I mean, there's dudes that. I mean, listen. Anytime you talk about Deshaun Watson, you personally, anytime you talk about Deshaun Watson, Ben Roethlisberger is somewhere in that vicinity. It's always there. You and I have talked a lot about this stuff, and it's always there because of what allegedly happened. Right. Same with Deshaun Watson. I don't know. Yes, Sam, first ballot guy. He's absolutely first ballot Hall of Famer, Big Ben Roethlisberger. But he was doing that before. He had to completely resurrect his career based off of that and did. The difference was he did. I don't think Deshaun Watson does that because I don't think it's built for him. Does that make sense? Like Roethlisberger, the offense was built around him. He was huck it, chuck it football. That was Ben Roethlisberger. And then when he slowed down, it turned into throwing the ball as fast as you can, as quickly as you can, getting it out of your hands, and then you go. Not pretty football, but the dude's throwing 6 touchdown passes, right? I forget who it was against. He had 6 touchdown passes in a game. They had like back-to-back games where he had 5. Do you think Deshaun Watson's that guy? I don't. I don't think first off, I don't think the Browns offense is built like that because you have Nick Chubb.
Oh, so your take is you think the offense is still Nick Chubb is the centerpiece.
I do.
You do.
I do because they didn't move him; they moved Baker. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I
They could have got a lot more for Chubb than they got for Baker Mayfield. I don't think there's anybody that would even contest that. Would you?
no. Certainly not. I do think they could have got a king's ransom for Nick Chubb. I think they could have got a boatload. But with him still being he's pretty much just entering the prime of his career.
Who?
right now, Nick Chubb.
I disagree with that. I think he's got this year, and then you're going to see fading quick. That's how running backs go. Name a running back other than Adrian Peterson that has progressed the way that you just explained. He's been here for what, 3 years, 4 years?
Nick Chubb, since his rookie year was 2018. So
18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So this is year 6 for him, season 6.
yeah,
Dude, how many running backs in season 6 are in their prime? I love what the dude does in the weight room. And again, I would love that he's a Steeler, but I think you're going to get year 6 and year 7 maybe as an elite runner, and then you're going to have to figure out what to do with this dude. Trade him at his highest value, right? But right now, I know Browns fans don't want to hear this. He just signed that contract, right? You'd be very, very smart to let him play this year for you, hope for the best, run the wheels off of him, and trade him for the best you can get moving into the next year. Running backs are a dime a dozen nowadays. They are. And I hate saying that because I love Najee. I love the position of running back.
But
you can't build a franchise around
I disagree. I disagree because I think the way I see it is most running backs are a dime a dozen. But you're talking about Nick Chubb.
The best running back in football last year does not have a home right now.
To me, he wasn't the best running back in football, though.
Okay, but if you were a Raider fan, if you weren't a Browns fan, you'd be absolutely the other way, I think. You have an attachment to Nick Chubb, which for good reason, right? He is a great superstar running back. Superstar. But you cannot, in today's NFL, you cannot build a franchise around a running back. It's impossible. Impossible to do. It's built around a quarterback and a defense.
But I think they've made some moves this offseason, and they got a burner of a fast receiver in Elijah Moore. They drafted another receiver in the draft, Cedric Tillman. I think they've done a lot of things to cater to Deshaun Watson, and I think Nick Chubb is just a part of the offense. I don't think it's necessarily built around Chubb like you do.
I think you need a running game. You guys have a running game. Every time I sit and watch a Browns game with you, Scotty, at least 3 times a game, it's give the ball to Chubb. Why aren't we giving the ball to Chubb? Why aren't we? So I don't think I'm going to hear you saying, why don't we throw the ball to Elijah Moore? Is that his name? Elijah Moore more often? I don't think I'm going to hear that. Nick, you guys, what was it, the Steelers game? You guys were on the 1 yard line, 2 yard line, and you didn't run Nick Chubb, right? And you fumbled, and that changed the course of the game. I don't think you can say that about a guy that isn't your primary weapon. I mean, there's a lot of people, and there's shirts made that says, get the ball to Chubb.
But don't you think at the same time, and I know you don't think he's going to be that guy, but if Deshaun Watson is all that the Browns hope and really much they pretty much expect him to be, or they wouldn't have given him the contract, don't you think it's going to make it that much easier for Watson? Because if Watson's playing at that level, his whole career, Nick Chubb's faced 8 and 9 man boxes his whole career. Teams have stacked the line of scrimmage, and they said, we stop Nick Chubb, we stop the Browns. If Watson's playing at an elite level, they're not going to be able to just stack the box and say, we're just going to take Nick Chubb away. So it's going to open up even more.
Okay, so let me ask you this question to wrap up and kind of tie everything together before we take a break. Okay, yes or no question. Is Nick Chubb a superstar?
Yes.
Is Deshaun Watson a superstar?
Nope.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Now explain.
I think I think last year was a
What about the year before
epiphany.
that?
Well, he was suspended.
What about the year
so
before that?
he was really good. Had one of the best seasons. He threw for 4,000 yards, over 4,000 yards. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Okay. So
And
he's a superstar because he did that 1 year.
he got the Texans in the playoffs before that.
And how'd that go?
He got them in the playoffs in 29. Well, they went up against the best, Pat Mahomes, just because.
And
just
what do you think's
because
going to happen if he goes in the playoffs again? You
he's-
think they're going to bring the Lions into the playoffs and be like, hey, you know what, Browns? Come on. You're not going to.
No,
listen,
but
you were gifted that
my
Steelers
point
game.
is,
You were gifted that Steelers game. The playoffs aren't usually like that.
I understand that, DJ, but my point is, you get to that game. Yes, Pat Mahomes is better than Deshaun Watson. There's no question, but you get to that game, anything could happen.
So if you're a wild card
Baker
winner,
Mayfield was a Rashard Higgins fumble away from beating Pat Mahomes in 2020.
no, beating it wasn't Pat Mahomes. It was the dude from Michigan. What's his
Well,
name?
it was Pat
Penny.
Mahomes for over half of the game till the midway through the third quarter.
Yeah, it's great value versus Oreos. That's the difference right there. Like, and Henny still beat you. And ifs and buts were candies and nuts, the world would be a better place, right? My point is, Deshaun Watson.
I'm just saying,
to most,
real quick, anything could happen in one game. That's all I'm saying. Anyone could be beaten. The best team doesn't always win.
No, I don't agree with that.
You know, so you're telling me the 2007 New York Giants were a better team than undefeated your boy undefeated Tom Brady and prime Randy. You're telling me that team was a better team than the Patriots
that day? Yes.
No, there's no. If they played that game,
who won?
The Giants. But if they played that game 10 times,
but they don't. They play it once.
Win 9 of those.
But that's hypothetical. That's not happening. They played one game, and the Giants were better that game.
He's the greatest quarterback of all time.
He sure is, but he also lost a lot of games.
Yes, but
he lost how many Super Bowls?
It was on flukes. How many of those were flukes?
So if Aaron Rodgers throws a Hail Mary,
that David Kyrie,
do people call
Kyrie catch?
Okay, do people call the Browns' victory over the Steelers in that playoff game a fluke? Do you call that a fluke?
I mean, as much as I hate to say it, like based off how Baker's played since and how the Browns have been since.
But he almost beat Pat Mahomes. He was one Rashard Higgins fumble away from beating Pat Mahomes.
But and
they would have won the Super Bowl after that, right?
Luck comes in.
Luck.
We were just talking off the air. You had a great conversation with my new friend Brett here. We were talking about luck factors in every day too.
It does, but
sometimes you gotta be lucky.
You can't say that a team's not better when they win.
So you don't think any time in the history of since you played sports, watched sports, announced, covered sports in the history of your life since you've been born and been around sports, you don't think there's been one game where you've been at where the better team lost the game?
They're not the better team if they lose, Scotty. That day, parentheses, that day. They can't be the better team if they lose. Every coach in an interview is going to come out and say, they were the better team today. They were the better quarterback. They were the better hitter. They were the better pitcher. They were the better swimmer. They were the better whatever.
people, but you also hear all the times guys say we beat ourselves. They say that a lot. We beat ourselves
I
today.
agree with
With
that. But that doesn't make you better because you admit that you beat yourselves. You got to be better team. The better team doesn't beat themselves. The better team can still win when they're not playing their best. Correct? Incorrect.
yeah, they can still win when they're not playing their
You think
best.
Tom Brady was always on point every single game? Or do you think they were just in a position to win and they just went and won? I mean, you've seen Tom Brady come back from what, 28-3, whatever that was in that Super Bowl, right? 80 for Brady. It's a situation where if the better team won, who was the better team, Scotty, that day? The Atlanta Falcons, hands down. No, it was the New England Patriots. They won.
What about the Super Bowl? What about the Super Bowl when the Seattle had prime Russ and prime Marshawn Lynch? He
Yep,
was the best running back in the
100%.
league
I
at
remember it.
the time. You're telling me the everybody knows Seattle should have won that game, and they were the better team. And Pete Carroll didn't hand the ball to Marshawn Lynch on the 1 yard line, and he called a pass play with Russell Wilson, and they got intercepted and they lost.
Were they the better team?
They were the best. Everyone knows they should have won
Then
that
why
Super
then
Bowl
why then why did they not win?
because of a stupid coaching decision.
So they weren't better. So that Belichick in that moment was better than Pete Carroll, correct?
No, Pete Carroll was just incompetent.
No. No.
Yes.
It was Bill Belichick put his guys in a position to make a play, and Pete Carroll did not. Bill Belichick won. He was better that game. He made more plays with his team, and his team made more plays than the Seahawks. They were the better team. There's more than one play that makes up a game. I mean, you're going to hear coaches talk about that too. If you're the better team, you're putting them away, right? Sometimes you win close games because you're the better team. Sometimes you're the better team because you hang around and then win those games that maybe you're not supposed to. That's why you're the better team.
So you think even going back to one of the worst calls in NFL history, a few playoff seasons ago, you really thought the Rams were a better team uh, with Jared Goff than prime Drew Brees in his prime when they had that bogus that bogus um non-pass interference call at the end of the game
Okay, so
when
this
it was
this is an interesting
clearly
topic.
pass interference.
This is an interesting topic because I think there's a caveat to what I've been saying. And I think, and I'm not going to sit here and be a conspiracy theorist. I think when officials get in the way, right? And we've seen some weird calls, okay? You look at the NBA, it's been proven that some of those games are fixed, right?
Yeah,
With
there
the
was
with the
a book
officials.
about it.
Right. So, I think that's the caveat. Do I think that NFL games are sometimes fixed based on penalties, based on, I hate to even say betting lines? I do. I do. I think it's
Because how
entertainment.
is Vegas right so much?
Exactly. But I don't think it's nearly as much as people think it is. Right? I don't think that it's
You
90% of the time.
you don't think there's a hierarchy before the season sitting around at the table.
No, I don't think they're picking names out of a hat.
Yeah.
Like I've heard that thing where they're doing short straws and stuff like that. I don't think it's that. I do think that there's certain situations in baseball, right, where a pitcher, if there's a big situation and the game's out of hand, will groove a fastball right down the middle. Does that affect the game? Typically not. It doesn't affect the wins and losses, but it affects statistics, right? So it grooves one down the middle. I think this is going to sound awful because I love Derek Jeter. I think some of Derek Jeter's last hits were staged. They grooved fastballs right down the middle. They let Jeter have some of those hits for the
So
story.
so you think he was kind of
I think
past his prime a bit?
yeah, Cal Ripken was playing longer than he should have. For the numbers. Sometimes you need storylines, right? I'm not saying that it's a conspiracy. What I'm trying to get to is back to my main point. The better team always wins. Better team that day, that night, that moment. The better team always prevails. No, unless unless there is someone that's rigging the game, right? If there's an official, things of that nature. Because people were going to sit there. Remember it was Niners and Ravens, and the Niners had all kinds of momentum going into, and then the lights went out. You remember that?
Yeah,
And
yeah, I
that was a
do.
Colin Kaepernick bowl, right?
2012, yeah, Hardball Bowl. Yep.
Yeah. So that was there. There's caveats, and I don't want to say that it's all definite. There's shades of gray in the middle, but I, most of the time, Scott, I'm talking maybe 80% of the time, the better team wins the game. Maybe
Yeah,
90, 95. I'm a
I
little bit
I
more.
agree with that, but my whole point is, you think the better team always wins. I don't. I disagree there. I think they win probably. I'd say
Then if that's the case,
85 to 90
okay.
percent
So
of the
so if so
time.
if that's the case, why do we even play the game? They should just seed them, and whoever gets the number one seed is the better team, and they're going to win. The Browns should have never won that game because they played at Heinz Field against the Steelers, who were the higher seed. Steelers were the better team. If we're playing by your rules,
Yeah, the Steelers. I mean, you think about it, they beat themselves in that. They did a lot to beat themselves in that game.
but they're the better
They,
team. Why didn't they should have won that game?
that's my whole point.
They're
The
the better
better
team.
team doesn't always win.
No, they're the better team. They were the higher seed. They weren't the better team. They were not the better team.
They had more talent than the Browns.
They were
Roethlisberger's a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield is.
they
That's the
they
most
weren't
important
they
position.
weren't the better team that day. I could have told you that walking into it.
You weren't saying that leading up to the
No,
game.
no, but you look at how bad I mean the Steelers were old. There was no I remember talking about this, how old the Steelers were with Pouncey, Roethlisberger, some of the guys they had. They had the young receivers, right? But they were old. They were not the better team that game. The Browns had more going for them at that time. And a lot of it, has to do with momentum, right?
But
How hard are you at the time?
yeah, because again, but look at the next year. The Browns were also younger, and you could say they had more going for them. But the next year, the Steelers still made the playoffs in Ben's last year, and the Browns didn't.
Yeah, dude,
So,
they're the Steelers were not a good team. That just tells you how bad the Browns were.
but they made the playoffs. They weren't a bad
Doesn't
team.
Yes, they
How can you?
were.
No, they were not a bad team. They've never been a bad team under Tomlin. In worst case, they've been average.
Just because you're
There's a difference between
okay,
average and bad. Like bad
no,
is
average to me is bad. Because if you're average, you're not winning anything. Who's the last average team that's won a championship? The top of your head.
last average team to win a
It's a
championship.
trick question. They don't. Average teams don't win championships, Scotty. They don't. Average teams don't win championships. Great teams win championships. Great teams. People are going to say Trent Dilfer. Okay, look at the other side of the football, Ray Lewis. Look at that defense, right? Ben Roethlisberger is a great quarterback. I don't know that he won that game, either Super Bowl. He was borderline back in that Super Bowl, but that defense was great.
Yeah, I mean,
Average teams don't win championships. Great teams do. You have to have one side or multiple superstars that are great.
I don't like the Bucks with Brad Johnson. Was
Defense.
that really a great team?
Defense.
Okay. I
Defense
mean,
wins. Anybody?
defense wins championships,
Yes, sir.
but offense could win it too.
Can it?
Teams with the best offenses have won also.
Does it?
Yeah, it does because the when the
I guess you because that the Falcons and Patriots Super Bowl, there was not a whole lot of defense there for that second half.
yeah, and also the second time was it the second time? Yeah, it was the second time Seattle, that same Super Bowl with Marshawn Lynch. The Seattle definitely had the better defense. That was the Legion of Boom
Yeah,
in their prime.
sure.
But the Patriots were better offense, so they won that Super.
Patriots had a really, but Scotty, what won the game? Tom Brady didn't throw the ball in the end zone to win the game. What won the game for the Patriots? Mr. Offense. And that happens on what side of the football?
Because they were incompetent on offense.
Stop milking
They
that
didn't
cow.
give it
Stop
to-
milking that cow. You just tried to make a point and it backfired, and you know it because I know it by the smile.
Yeah, I chalked that one up as an L. You're. This is why I say it's hard with you because you were a salesman.
It's not because I'm a salesman. It's because I see it. Sam, the worst call in history.
What call? The
non-run. That's interesting.
Oh, the non-run.
That's interesting to me because I can't think of one off the top of my head, and I'll admit I'll give this to Sam. But I think there's been a lot of bad calls. I mean, again, the Falcons were up by like 28 points, 25 points, something like that. You're telling me that one call in the Super Bowl, granted it was bad, right, to not hand the ball off to Marshawn Lynch, but it's not a slam dunk. I don't care what anybody says. It's
not a slam dunk, but you agree who was better than him running the ball?
Oh, I agree with that wholeheartedly. But let me ask you a dumb question. If he gets stuffed at the line of scrimmage and doesn't get in, what are we talking about?
You're talking about you went down with your best bullet in the chamber.
That's true. And I can appreciate that. But I'm guessing, and I'm not defending Pete Carroll at all, I'm guessing in that moment, Pete Carroll outthought himself because he's a primitive thinker. I'm guessing that he thought they're going to bring blitz with everybody, which if you saw, they were blitzing. They were bringing it. They brought the house. But it was a bad throw. Let's be honest.
It was a bad throw.
It was a bad throw. But Pete Carroll gets the heat, from calling the pass play in the first place, which has been confirmed that he called it. Russell Wilson didn't audible out of it. But
I do agree with you that it's not a slam dunk because, like, everyone scrunched at the line of scrimmage, so you could see why he would say, "I'm gonna do a little bit out of." But that goes back to sometimes I think coaches try to be too fancy.
Sure, and there's a reason that Tom Brady was head down on the sideline. The greatest quarterback of all time, head down. We're about to lose this game. We're about to lose the Super Bowl. And lo and behold, boom, interception, which at the time I thought was pass interference, but it wasn't. You got to let him play at that point.
Let me ask you this. I know this is kind of getting off topic, but do you think it would affected Tom Brady or even Russell Wilson because he would have 2 Super Bowls Brady would have 6 instead of 7. Do you think it impacts either one of them at all? Like as far as like,
No, Tom Brady's still the greatest quarterback of all time, and Russell Wilson will go into the Hall of Fame.
okay, I agree with you,
Yeah,
but
I don't think so. I think
yeah.
that if it was Eli Manning and Tom has 8 Super Bowls and Eli has 1, I think that's an interesting conversation.
What about Marshawn Lynch in his career?
He's
Like,
going to Hall
say
of
he
Fame.
scores that.
Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of
Okay,
Famer. He's a Hall of Famer.
yeah.
I think it'd be more interesting if Ben Roethlisberger didn't win Super Bowl 43. Are we talking about him as a Hall of Famer?
Was that the Arizona
That was the Arizona game.
game? Yeah, because they pretty handily beat Seattle, right?
Who's that? Arizona?
No, Roethlisberger's first Super Bowl against Seattle.
It wasn't pretty. I know that. It wasn't handily either. I remember is Pete Carroll a Hall of Famer? No. No, I don't think so.
I mean, but you could be talking about, is he Hall of Fame? I mean, you could definitely say he could be Hall of Fame
Pete Carroll?
collegiately.
Oh, yeah.
USC.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
like, who talks about the College Football Hall of Fame?
Yeah, nobody.
I couldn't name 5 people in the College Football Hall of Fame. Rudy, he probably didn't even make it.
Rudy.
With that win, 2 Super Bowls. Here's what I'll say. Here's where I think Pete Carroll, if he wins that Super Bowl, gets a job at CBS or Fox or the NFL Network and pushes his way into the Super Bowl or into the Hall of Fame, rather, because I think that's exactly what Bill Cowher did. I really do. 1 Super Bowl, that guy's in. 1 Super Bowl, and he's in. Bill Cowher does more for the game as an analyst than he did for a coach the last few years.
I mean, do you think this is hard to say, but let's say hypothetically we ride out as long as Mike Tomlin coaches the Steelers, let's say he never wins another one.
Tomlin's a Hall of Famer.
He's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I think anytime that you go 15 years without a losing record, that's impressive. No matter if they're your guys or not or whatever, and people are always going to say that they were Cowher's guys that won the Super Bowl. Whatever, man. He got to another one.
He did,
and I still think he gets to another one. And I know that's me putting the black and gold colored glasses on, but listen, I'm telling you, what did we talk about? We talked about a good quarterback, above average quarterback, and a great defense. And that's what the Steelers have put together. Their defense is I think, going to be lights out.
But the one thing, I'm not saying this just because I dislike the Steelers, although it's easy to, have that take. But one thing I will say, you have to, like, Kenny Pickett's start to the season last year was at the very least underwhelming. He finished really strong. It reminds me, I'm not saying this is going to happen with Pickett, but it reminds me a lot of Baker's rookie year where he was up and down at the beginning of the season. He finished really strong. The fan base was super excited. He almost won Rookie of the Year. And then his second full year as a starter, when teams have more film on him, he totally flops. I'm not saying that's going to happen with Pickett, but I'm saying that's one concern I would have as a Steelers fan is you can't just look at those last handful of games. You have to look at the full body of work, and I don't think Pickett started as strong as he finished. And I realize that the most important thing is how you finish, but that's my question. Can Kenny Pickett put a complete season together where he's the full-time man?
I don't know. I mean, he had 2 concussions last year too. So in a world full of concussions, that you got to take that into consideration. I think the game has slowed down for him. I think it's a valid question, Scotty. And I think that's a lot of the excitement around this year is, okay, not can we keep Kenny Pickett healthy? What Kenny Pickett are we going to get? The first half or the second half? I like it because he finished that way. I think the game slowed down for him. I think it continues to slow down for him. I think having Pickens, having Calvin Austin, having some of these stud receivers that I think they're going to have, having a big blocking tight end, and having a left tackle potentially that could be an all-pro guy. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt, but I guess my final point is the Browns, or at least I thought they had all that with Baker, and that I thought Baker was just going to get better.
Well, and here's the difference. Kenny has a locker room, a front office, and a coach that believe in him. He's the guy. They're not looking for the guy. He's the guy. And I don't think Baker had that. I think he had a lot of guys in that locker room.
Not after John Dorsey got fired.
Exactly. And I think he's got a lot of guys in that locker room, did Baker, that wanted to be the guy getting all the endorsement deals, wanted to be the face of the franchise. And it was just Baker Mayfield getting commercial after commercial because he's the quarterback. And that's what we value here in the NFL. So I hope Kenny Pickett doesn't have that same trajectory. But hey, listen, I still believe in Baker Mayfield. He scared the bejesus out of me, Scotty. I loved Baker Mayfield.
I mean,
I just hated that he was on the Browns.
Even last year, DJ, he had a lot of bad games, but the good games he had, he was really good. Like, it's consistency with him, because when he's on, he's as hot as they come.
He's 6 for 7, 7 for 8 in his preseason game.
Yeah.
Like, that's dangerous. As a Browns fan, you're sitting there probably pooping a little bit, thinking, oh my gosh, he's going to pick us apart this year, or the potential's there. So Chris Sigler's going to wrap us up. He says, George Seifert only one of 13 coaches to win 2 Super Bowls, but he's not in the Hall of Fame. Think about that. I don't disagree. That's going to do it for our show today. Scotty, as always, it's good having you back, man. I appreciate you being here, and welcome to Athletics. And I'm looking forward to next weekend, or next Wednesday, rather. I'm looking forward. You're here on Friday too, huh?
Friday, that's kind of up in the air right now. I'm going to try to get here.
Gotcha.
And I know
Radar's been toting it.
We got to cut the show.
Yep.
Yeah.
We can talk about it offline.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for the show. Scotty, thank you again. Appreciate you, and appreciate you out there watching as always. And of course, our featured sponsor, proud to sponsor this show, Toyota of Warren. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys tomorrow, Thursday, football night in America here on YSN. We'll check you out a little bit later. Take care. YSN thanks you for watching this presentation of your